listening. Here we go. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Holistic Way. My name is Todd Hart. I'm the host of the show. And today we're joined by Kimberly, Testa, intuitive healer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and take a minute to introduce yourself and tell us about yourself and what you do.
Oh, okay. So I'm an intuitive healer, and a lot of people ask me, what does that mean? For me, it means that I don't work in boxes. Yes, I'm trained in many modalities. I'm a Reiki master, integrated energy therapy master. I'm Tibetan energy healing in the lineage of the Lamas. I'm a Diksha oneness blessing giver. I also transmit Ilahi Noor energy and many other things. But the way that I work is to just be present with whoever's with me and allow the energy to flow through. The way that I put it, it's creation energy that comes through me. That's the best way that I can describe it. And
Cool.
Basically that's it. I'm intuitive, which means I'm psychic. I'm empathic, so I can feel what's going on in the client's body. And I have a strong connection to my guides, and they help me in the process. I also have other things that come up. Some mediumship happens, and a lot of other things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, you and I met, I, on a previous show, had Sean Aceto on my show with the Crystal Singing Bowls.
Yeah.
And then he invited me to an event at Providence Power Yoga. It was a sound healing event. And there were a few other people there. There was Joy from Gongs of Joy. And you were there. And you were walking around, and you asked beforehand if you could, touch people. I'm touching my mic. If you could touch people, and everyone, I think, was fine with that.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. And so, do you do that a lot with the sound healing? Do you integrate with them? Is that
Once a month.
Okay.
I do a lot of, I think right now it's 9 public events a month. Once a month is with the Gongs and Sean. I do 2 other with Sean Aceto in the bowls, the Crystal Singing Bowls. And then the rest of it is just me doing group energy healing for people.
And then you and I had a private consultation. Yeah. You were kind enough to offer me a session with you, which was amazing. And I've been thinking about it for the past week, trying to describe it, and I still don't know how to describe it.
I don't know how to describe it either.
We talked about, where I am in my life and what I'm doing. You had some great ideas for me about different things. I'm actually going to start a radio show tomorrow on Blog Talk Radio. And that kind of came through when we had our session. And it's funny because my grandmother came up at the session.
That's right.
She also came up during the sound healing as well. Out of nowhere she came. So it's interesting that she keeps popping up. And she was a healer, and she made her own medicines, and she made her own whiskey during the depression and sold it. So it was pretty fascinating that she keeps coming up.
And she gave you her medicine during our session.
Yes, she did. I remember that. I told my daughter that, the imagery of that. She put it in the satchel, and that was pretty cool. So how long have you been doing this? And I guess when did you realize that you have these gifts? Did you think you were crazy at first? And like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, like, okay, now I know I have these powers or these things going on?
Well, really, I had to be told that I was a healer. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was empathic. But I always had an awareness as a child. I could see through the illusion of things. I thought that everyone could. But I had a very challenging childhood. I had a lot of anxiety, which eventually led to depression in my teenage years. And throughout my life and throughout my schooling, I was always searching, trying to figure out, why I was the way I was and why I was so sensitive. And Eventually, when my child was a year old, I was just so fed up with my life that I was just like, forget this, I have to do something. I know that there's a voice in me, and that when I don't listen to that voice, that things seem to go wrong. So I made a vow to myself to really start listening. And one of the first things that the voice told me was to learn Reiki. And I didn't know what Reiki was, and I was afraid of it because I was afraid of everything.
Wow.
Everything scared me. It had gotten to the point where I was in my late 20s that I couldn't leave my house because the panic attacks were so bad. And then I ended up going on medication, which did save my life, essentially, and then I weaned off of it. Anyway, so I had my child, and I vowed that I was going to change my life because I didn't want to raise him in the state that I was in. And so I was led by synchronicity to different people, and I started out learning integrated energy therapy, which is working with the angels. And I didn't believe in angels. I was rolling my eyes at all of this. And around the same time, I started to go see healers.
Right.
And it was the first time in my life that I noticed a difference, that things were actually shifting within me. And my first IET training, I was so nervous that I honestly thought I was going to throw up on everyone. I mean, that's the kind of anxiety that I had.
Wow.
And when I put my hands on that first person, everything just went, dropped. And I've done this before. Like there was this deep recognition. So through my going to see healers, I learned that I was one myself, and that I had a lot of abilities. And one of the biggest things that I learned was that I'm empathic, and I didn't know what that meant either. And when I found out, it just made my whole life make sense, because all of this anxiety and the depression really wasn't mine. Some of it was, but most of what I was feeling was everyone else's feelings around me.
So you learned how to protect yourself from that, or can you turn it off, or somehow distance yourself from it?
Now I can, and I can't even tell you exactly how it happened. It was progression. It was just through me really releasing that which was not mine, and to always question myself, you know, what is this feeling? Is this my feeling? Is it not? If it's mine, okay, then I look at it. If it isn't, I let it go. But that's a challenge for a lot of people, is the letting it go as well. So it was just practice, 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 practice.
Now, as you're describing your story, I'm thinking in my mind, you know, you brought up religious, and was that part of the, you know, this goes against what your religion says, and so was that part of the struggle? There
was a little bit of that, but my family was Catholic.
Me too.
And,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah. I was thinking that as you're telling the story.
So I'm okay with the guilt stuff. Like, that didn't really get to me. But I had this awareness. And I went to catechism. And I remember I have these memories of just being in that class and going, that's not the truth. What they're teaching us is not the truth. And it wasn't about everything, because some of it resonated with me.
Sure.
But there were a lot of things that, you know, being a little girl, I just knew that it wasn't true.
Right.
And I had to go speak to some head nun, sister, somebody, just to get out. Like, they didn't want to release me, and I had to tell her what I really thought and felt about everything.
Wow.
And she looked at my mother, and she's like a 9-year-old in a 80-year-old woman's body, and she can go. So,
wow.
So, you know, they let me go.
Yeah.
But there's always been this awareness with me, and this knowledge. But I didn't recognize it really when I was younger, because there was so much going on in my life that I couldn't pay attention to it.
And without the proper teachers, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You mentioned, I wrote something down, you mentioned the illusion of life. And when you say that, I think that I interpret that as people get caught up, I think, in silly things. And it's like, that's really not what it's about. And you're putting your energy you're focusing on all the wrong stuff. What do you mean when you say that?
For me, it was the falseness of people, of interactions. I remember one of my memories is being in the supermarket with my mom, and seeing an interaction between two people I didn't know. And one was like, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, good, how are you? You know? And I'm just standing there going, what was that? I didn't understand it because there was nothing, there was no real interaction there. There was no connection. And I would just see this all around me, all of the adults, in the way that they weren't being genuine.
Right.
They weren't being honest with themselves or with anyone else. Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone that was on the show previous to this, and it was over the weekend, and she was sharing with me some stuff that was pretty deep, heavy stuff, and just being very honest with me. And I said to her, I said, we all have our issues that we deal with. We just don't talk about it.
Right.
And she said, shouldn't we talk about it? And I said, yeah, we should, because then people don't feel so alone and trapped. Because if we all try to come across as, oh, we're perfect, our life is great, when someone's suffering, they're going to say, it's just me. Everyone else is doing great. I'm the one with the problem. And they end up doing something to hurt themselves or something silly. But we all have issues. We all have struggles. We all have doubt. We all have those voices in our head that say we're not good enough, or whatever your thing is. But we all have that.
Right.
And I always, it's refreshing to me when people say, yeah, we're all screwed up.
Well,
we really are.
Well, we are.
We all have issues.
There's so many layers of the screwed upness too. And, and that's part of, it's why I do what I do, because I want people to know that there's help out there and that you're not the only one.
Right.
And I tell people my story because it's the truth. And this is what, this is what I've been through. This is what has shaped me into being who I am. And I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't have said that a number of years ago because I was in my story and in the suffering. But it's the truth. And so many of my clients have anxiety.
A lot
and
of
I
people
can say to them, I understand. I've been there. I've lived it for many, many, many years. So I really do get it. I get it.
And is it for most people that they're just not living the life that they want or they're supposed to live? Or are they trying to please somebody else? And is that where it's all coming from?
Well, there's all of that. I really
all
feel...
the above.
all of the above. And, it's really about being out of alignment with yourself. And the more that you can come into alignment with the truth of who you really are, that you can just go, here I am.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily easy. And it, it is work. Maybe that's not the best way to put it, but dedication is important. Depending on how far you want to go with the healing work and about really discovering who you are. But there's a lot of avoidance. The anxiety is kind of a lot of avoidance of just not paying attention and to what is really happening in your life and what the information and the guidance is that you're receiving.
Well, you and I had about an hour together in our private session, and I left there knowing that there was a struggle from being guided by, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, energy, whatever, the universe, in my head. So there was a struggle there. So the following day and the following couple of days, I tried to let go of my head, because the head thinks you have to be busy, you have to do this, you have to, look busy, look busy, and that means you're accomplishing something. But half the time you're not.
Right.
I always equate it to a dog chasing his tail. A lot of hard work and effort goes into it, but in the end, really nothing's accomplished. And when I was led from, I kind of meditated and said, well, let me kind of listen to that inner voice. And that's when I started the radio show. That's when I started doing all of these other things. And it was effortless. It really was effortless. It was like, oh, wow, this is actually really simple. So thank you for that. It was very profound. It was very, very profound. I encourage people to go see you. I really do, because it's really cool. You take away the noise. There's a lot of noise in the world. And we talked about that. Actually, I have a dance I want to choreograph. I told you about that I want to do. It has to do with the noise. We're always distracted by TV and all of the news, and and they do that deliberately. The politicians do it. Right. The news does it. They just want your attention. They want your money. They want this. They want that. Whatever. But you help remove that and kind of get down to the spirit, which was really exciting. So who are the people that should come see you? Not should come see you. That it's wise to. What what are they experiencing? What are they suffering? You know, who would you reach out to that might be watching, and someone suffering from depression or someone suffering from, you know, whatever? I'll let you take it on that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I set an intention that whoever comes to see me is really ready to and is willing to put in the time and the practice to heal. I prefer people that really want to make a substantial change in their life. And in general, I do get a lot of people with anxiety and depression. People tend to come to me more for emotional and mental issues. I do get people with physical diseases and things like that as well. I mean, I'm really open to anyone. If someone feels drawn to me, I say act on that.
Okay.
You know, I'm open to whoever comes to see me. I have one woman who comes frequently, and she really just likes to talk. I only have her on the table for about 5 minutes. She just wants to talk to me. And that's what we do. And then I have some people, and they're on the massage table, the healing table, for about 50 minutes. You know, I'm just there and open and available to whatever someone needs.
And when you mention the table, just for people so they understand what that means, you're doing Reiki, you're doing some energy work.
I do hands-on healing, yeah, on a massage table, fully clothed.
That's why I'm mentioning that.
Lying down.
That's why I'm mentioning it, because some people might think, wait a minute, what?
No, so you're usually lying, you know, on your back, facing
Yeah.
up, and just receiving the work. So as a general rule, when I have a session, we'll sit and we'll discuss whatever's up. So you may come to me and say, this is what's going on in my life, this is what I want to change, or I'm feeling this. And we'll have a discussion. And as you're sitting there, I'm feeling, you know, in my body what's going on in your body. I'm feeling your emotions. My guides usually ask me to ask you questions. So it's not me just sitting there saying, this is what's going on with you. There's a way of questioning to help you discover and you say the words of what's really going on, and to make those aha moments, those discoveries. And while we're doing this, there is work, there's energy flowing, there's connections being made, and there's intentions being set for the hands-on healing work.
Okay.
And so then we transition to the table, and I do whatever I'm guided to do. I don't work in any modalities. It looks like Reiki. It looks like, you know, any other hands-on modality.
But it's what the person needs at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to throw out the email address for the show. If you want to get in touch with the show, or if you want Kimberly's information, send an email to theholisticway@hotmail.com. Again, theholisticway@hotmail.com. It's on the screen, so you can send an email to us. If you have questions, or if you want to reach out to any of the guests, you can send us an email, and we'll put you in touch with the different people, depending on what you're looking for. I've always wondered, when you're a medium, actually two things that could come into mind. Do you, when you're out and about, feel something from someone and feel compelled to maybe not talk to them, or I don't know, you know something that you want to share with them? Do you just go up and say, hey, do you bump into them with your carriage? Start a conversation that way? Do you ever get that kind of, hey, bump them with your carriage?
Not too often. Mostly I pick up on people. I pick up on a lot of anxiety from people. Like if I'm in the supermarket, I'll walk by someone and feel this tightening happening. But generally, I don't. Although I do occasionally get information that I really don't want to know about people.
Right.
I've come to a point where I don't intentionally close the energy, but it just happens naturally. It's sort of, it's a protection for myself, even though I don't really run protection, because I feel that my job as an empath is to be a filter for people. So the energy flows through me. In a way, I am healing everyone everywhere that I go.
We talked about this the other night. Is that like a filter or a cleanser, cleansing filter or something for other people? So it's just sort of filtering through you and...
Yeah, my job is to not let it get caught, which is what made me so ill before. Yes, and which makes other people physically and mentally ill a lot. It's because they take everything on thinking it's theirs. There's a lot of empaths walking around holding all of this crap that isn't theirs.
Wow.
So it's about just relaxing and knowing what is mine, what isn't, and just letting it go through me. And it's not just one-on-one, it's also, it's big energy that comes through. It's the cosmic consciousness. Sometimes there's something floating around. I'll wake up one day and feel very, very sad and not know why. And then I'll see something, I'll hear about something, because I don't watch the news, but I'll find out about something and go, okay, so I was just feeling into the collective. And let it process through me.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I think I told you that a lot of kids are drawn to me. And I tell you about the kid in the elevator. He was with his family. I get on the elevator. He just came up and held my hand and put his head against it. And the family was freaking out. I was like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. I was at dinner the other night by myself. I stopped at a place to have some food. And there was a family there. And there was just an odd interaction between the parents. Two little boys. They were so cute. And they just seemed... There was something with the way the parents were talking to them. It just seemed, I don't know. I sort of just said a little prayer for the kids. I felt something. So I got up and left, and I came back to leave money on the table for a tip. And I turned, and the little boy had gotten out of his chair, and he smacked right into me when I turned, and he fell on his butt. And I remember, and the dad was saying, oh, he deserves it, he should, you know, and I went down and I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, I'm very sorry that happened. I hope you're okay. And he gave me the biggest smile. Aww. But there was just something there, you know, like I don't know, maybe he needed something from me, or there was something, and I just put my hand on his shoulder, and I ignored the parents because they were saying stupid stuff in my opinion, and I just said, I'm very sorry that happened, you know, I hope you're okay. But I feel like sometimes people are just drawn into other people's lives for reasons.
Yes, definitely. There's no accidents. And this brings up another thing that I'd like to mention too about empaths, is that often they will tell you that we can just be walking about anywhere and people will come up to us and just tell us their life story. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but here it goes. Here's all my stuff. You take it.
That happens to me
a lot.
You know,
so this is what happens. So we just, you know, if we can, we listen. Okay, thank you. And then move on and just let it flow through.
My wife is always amazed because we talked about, I have some of this too. And
you have a lot of it.
I have a lot of it actually, yeah. But my wife will always laugh because we'll just travel somewhere and people will just come up and start talking to me. And she just sits back and is like, I'm amazed that these things they say to you and they feel so comfortable, and especially kids. They just gather babies, just look at me with the biggest smile, and it's so funny. So it's interesting.
It is.
So I wanted to talk about some of the, I don't know what the word is, maybe channeling, medium, but do you ever get someone that comes and you're like, I don't want to help you, or I don't, like, is there ever a struggle with that?
Yes. I've had several people come to me that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. And it was really good for me because it just showed me how I'm still in judgment about people.
Oh, wow.
And to really just sit and be open and be present with them. And it's very heart-opening to do that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I had one woman come to a group healing that I had to actually segregate her because she was going through something extremely intense and writhing on the floor. And she was one person that I did not want to work with because she was too wrapped up in her story, yet she wasn't really ready.
Right.
Actually, there was another woman like that as well. So yeah, I think I've only said no to about 2 people because they just weren't available.
I get that. Yeah.
See my eyes tearing.
I saw that.
And this happens when the energy flows.
I was going to ask you about that.
So
I was thinking, should I ask or should I let it go? But I did notice it.
It's one of the things that happens for me, and it's funny because when I first started doing this work, I would sit with someone, and we'd be talking, and the energy would channel through, and I'd just be crying, you know, not sobbing, but just my eyes would tear. Like, okay, I don't know what this is, but this is what it is, and I have to be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it subsided, but it still comes up when the energy and the truth, it's like a truth meter in a way. When more things start to come through, it just releases through my eyes.
I did notice, I picked up on that.
Yeah.
So if people, you have a website,
Yes.
theendlesslight.com. theendlesslight.com. So if people want to reach you, they can go to the website there and reach out to you. I loved my session with you.
I'm so glad.
And I really encourage people, even just to go once and just experience it, because it kind of takes away from things. We're already out of time, so thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I'm amazed at how quickly the show goes. Kimberly, Testa, thank you. I'm Todd Hart. This has been The Holistic Way. Thank you for watching, and keep watching the show and reach out with any questions, and stay healthy. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.